Hello and welcome to episode 137 of the Nerds at Large Gaming Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Darby and Jeff.
I'm Jeff Mayo.
And I am special guest Jacob Hamill.
And just letting everyone know, tuning into this podcast, we do normally go through like news and video game playing in kind of equal measures. This time, this podcast is going to be almost entirely Final Fantasy VII Remake and Resident Evil 3. So, if you aren't interested in those two games, you can skip, use the time codes to get to the end for our probably very small news segment because we got a lot to talk about. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good.
I'm tired.
I'm kind of tired, dude.
It's a tired Sunday.
It's been, obviously, I have spent a whole lot of time sitting on the couch this weekend, way more than I normally do. So I'm pretty tired from that because Final Fantasy VII Remake came out, and it came out Friday or Thursday at midnight. It's Sunday at noon right now, and I've put 26 hours into this game.
Nice. Everyone got your calculators. Calculate how much percentage of Darby's day was spent playing Final Fantasy VII.
Fucking lot. I think Jeff's at a similar playtime, aren't you?
Yep. I think I'm close to 24 hours, but I am farther than Darby by a decent amount.
Yeah. Well, that is what we're going to be talking about first. But before we get into it, I want to say a few announcements. First off, Jacob wrote with words instead of his voice. It's weird.
The fuck?
I didn't know people did that anymore. He wrote a Resident Evil 3 review that you can now find at nerdsatlarge.wordpress.com and on Jacob's personal blog, jacobhamill.blog.
Yeah. I guess going, because I made my own blog, so going forward, most video game reviews and that stuff will be cross-posted.
Okay.
But then there'll be some exclusive content on my blog. So check it out if you want to see more of what I do.
Exclusives. I was halfway through reading it. I haven't finished it, but it is very good. Jacob's a very, very, very good writer.
Well, thank you.
You should go read everything he does. Also in announcements, I finished my Final Fantasy VII replay of just the Midgar section. I was just playing that ahead of this. So if you're interested in seeing me play through the original FF7, and I was kind of looking at it through the lens of how everything was going to change in the remake. Obviously now I know how a lot of the things are changing. But if you want to go watch that, I think that's a good time. And episode 3 of our Late to the Party series, where we're playing Super Mario RPG, is out, and I am having a very, very good time with that. And I think Jeff is too. It's getting
good
better
game.
and better. It's a very good game. Kind of a lot of parallels to Final Fantasy VII because they were made right at the same time. It's both by Square. And
was that in 1997?
Yeah, I think
96.
It was 96.
Okay.
It was right before FF7. But literally, as soon as we started, I was like, wait a minute, I recognize these instruments, the music, the MIDI things or whatever, all
right.
those. I recognize that. That sounds very familiar. It's really cool.
But just always remember, Super Mario RPG came first, so Final Fantasy VII copied Mario.
Yep. I mean, all video games owe Mario some debt of gratitude somewhere down the line. Yeah. So guys, I've been I've legitimately been waiting since we started this channel to do what we're about to do right now and talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake, because at the end of your life, you're going to remember a few things, like the birth of your child or your wedding night, and everything. And then
playing Final Fantasy
right
VII
on the
Remake.
exact same level is Final Fantasy VII Remake coming out. I absolutely adore this game.
Well, I'm not surprised.
No one should be surprised. I knew they put out 15,000 trailers. I think we kind of knew generally what to expect from this game. But I really have to give it to it. I had very high expectations, and I thought I knew, and I did know a lot of the sections going in here. But it has legitimately, even with those high expectations, I have been absolutely blown away.
For the record, Final Fantasy VII is your favorite game of all time.
Yeah, I've said that a lot on this podcast, maybe to me, and Final Fantasy VII is my favorite game of all time. So obviously, there was a lot of expectations and a lot of hype built on this, but like playing through it is like really is an experience like no other, seeing something that was so crucial to my childhood and such an awesome childhood memory for me, like going through all these different areas and everything, and then to see them just completely fleshed out to like absurd degrees, where you just go in like the Sector 7, which was in the original game just a few screens, and I spent so much time in those few screens in the original game and loved it. And for that to literally be like the sprawling area with like these, you know, alleys, and you see people going around their daily lives and everything, it's crazy. It's really kind of surreal. And as a FF7 super fan, it has pleased me. There's like every 10 minutes I'm like, oh shit, they did that. Oh shit, this. I'm like, oh shit, that, like, you know, this on the surface this looks different, but it's like, oh wait, the item store is there. Oh, this is there. Oh, that person, he said the line, you know. There's all of those things. But then what really impresses me is just as much as there's those things, there's new elements. And the biggest compliment I can pay to this is that as a Final Fantasy super fan, every single new element I think serves to improve the Final Fantasy VII story. And I think Jeff agrees with me in a lot of this.
Yep.
Jeff, what's your top level?
Well, this game's great. I'm loving it so far. Like I said, I am farther than Darby, and I just got through a chapter where shit happens. Which kind of like what Darby was saying, adds stuff to the story of Final Fantasy VII that just improves it all the way around. Like, if you play both games and you say, at least for the Midgar section, that the original game told story better, at least up to the point I'm at, I think you got the nostalgia goggles on a little too tight, because all this does is expand on things, give stuff more context. Just generally better writing. I'm not saying that as a detriment to the original game, because it's a JRPG on the PS1. Not like, you know, not too much dialogue was said from a character at a time. Here now, you know, everything's fully voice acted, all that. They're all like full, natural sounding conversations and all that. But I mean, it is. If you just tell me on paper that we're like remaking this old RPG from the 90s, and like you just say on paper that they're gonna change or like add a ton of stuff, like it's not just, this is not a normal remake. This is not a remake in the sense that we are just taking this story and modernizing it and like shipping it forward. Yeah, they are like taking this as an opportunity to like refocus and hone in and like, you know, like drill down on this Midgar section. And on paper, that's scary. I mean, that's a scary concept of like my favorite game of all time being messed with in some way. But that's what, like, I am legitimately, the people who made this obviously love this game. A lot of them worked on the original game, and legitimately every single story change or just like section change or anything else was all made to not to like jerk the steering wheel away from the original story, but it was all made to either give more context or make like the emotional beats of the main story that are still intact, just make them hit harder. Because a lot of the same beats happen, but whenever they happen in this game, it's like you just care so much more about these characters than you ever did. Like side characters that they wanted you to care about in the original, but in all honesty, they had like 15 lines of dialogue like before their emotional beat happened. And it's like, that's just not enough. Whereas this, you are going on entire missions with these people. You are like seeing their banter back and forth, and it's pretty unbelievable.
Do you feel like what is added is filling in the spaces that were present in the original game instead of kind of erasing and then writing like a new draft? Which one do you feel is more applicable to this remake?
I think it's way more applicable for the first, to like fill in gaps and everything. And it's taking like elements that were like introduced in the original, or that like, you know, some elements that were introduced in the original. It's like, oh shit, okay, like we are going like way deeper in this and explaining this more. And then the new elements like all serve to like make that backbone that you know before stronger.
Yeah, to add on to that, Darby, I guess, kind of said it, but I'm not going to say what it is. They're an example of, and I kind of forgot about this, I have played the Midgar section and know a lot about the Final Fantasy VII story, but Darby obviously knows that stuff a lot more than I do. The little details and all that, but I didn't really think about it until Darby mentioned it. There is a certain plot thread that doesn't really come up until later in Final Fantasy VII story, that they're kind of planting the seeds more. Don't know if I should just say it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Planting the seeds now, like, so the hope is...
Maybe don't say it, because whenever I started hearing those things as a Final Fantasy VII fan, I was like, oh shit, this is cool.
I will say it, but Darby knows what I'm talking about, so he can... add on to this as well. They were just planting the seeds like, okay, this might be a more fleshed out and have more of a deeper meaning or whatever, a lot more to do with the actual story later on.
And that was like, there's examples, like, it's weird to like talk around it, but what he's talking about, like, there's so many examples like that one where it's like, okay, that didn't happen in the original, but it makes sense. It makes sense that this is happening, and it kind of like, in some ways shows that like they just didn't have enough time to flesh this stuff out in the original or whatever. It's just like every change makes sense within this story. And just the amount of times that I've had, like, I'm replaying this game in a way, but I have had so many oh shit moments playing this. It's like pretty, like, at a pretty decent clip. I'm just like, oh god, okay, we're doing this. Jeez.
Like, what's a good example of that? That's not like, major spoilers.
I guess, but kind of going with that, there is I don't know what to say without saying too much. There is a certain enemy that's repurposed.
Yeah.
In this game that just makes it so much better, and in a way that makes so much sense for the remake compared to the original game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really... and we are also going to be doing a Final Fantasy VII spoiler cast in the future with the Respawn Aimfire guys, so look forward to that. But while we're spoiler free, I mean, yeah, it's stuff like that, and even stuff that, like, I won't say what it is, but like there are legitimately like entire sections of this game where it's like, oh, this is a mission that didn't happen in the original, and then like it's focusing on a like different group of characters and stuff that you like didn't get to know as much, and then by the time you get to the end of that, it's like, oh, okay, this like ties in this, like, you knew, like, I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler to say you get to know the Avalanche characters a whole lot better in this game, and like they always hinted at their past together and everything, but here you just get a whole lot more of like, you go on a mission with them and you hear them talking about their previous times, or you like see their connections within the city and everything like that. It's just,
they're actual characters.
Yeah. It's pretty, I don't know, it's pretty insane. And like just seeing all this, I thought that there was a good chance it would happen, and sure enough, as soon as I walked into Sector 7 for the first time, I did start crying. I just immediately was like, oh my, like, it's just, it's crazy.
The tears just won't stop coming.
Yeah.
Won't stop coming, and then won't stop coming.
So I know with this game there's a lot of added side content, and some of the side content is as nearly as expansive as the main story. Do you feel that side content is like on par with the main plot?
No. And that is definitely, like, this is not a perfect game, and especially I mean, I really think that like I think you will love this game. I think everyone will like almost everyone will like this game, but there are flaws, and the side quest, I would say, is like, and I'm sure Jeff would agree, I'm sure everyone would agree. That is the key one. They aren't like so intrusive, you don't have to do them, and they're kind of like sectioned off to like certain portions of the game, but there is an definitely obvious hierarchy of like the main story missions have like amazing animations, really good dialogue, really good writing, all of this, and then the side ones have a lot more of like, yeah, your model looks pretty generic, and it's like, oh, the voice acting's not that good, and it's like you go on this quest and like you never actually see the big monster thing because they don't want to animate it. It's like they remind me, but I wouldn't say that they're all like, they're kind of hit or miss. They're like some of them where I was like, okay, I like this because I got to spend more time in the world. It gave me an excuse, but I didn't really like. There wasn't much to that story, and that's at its worst. But, and this is me like targeting you, I do think, and Jeff I think can back me up on this some, at its best, the side quests are very Yakuza.
Okay.
Very Yakuza. Because they lean into the wackiness in a way that I absolutely love. And there's some of those side things where it's like, it's obvious you didn't have the animation and stuff, but like had very clever writing. And,
Yeah, so the side quests, where you're doing them is pretty generic. I don't think this is a spoiler to say it's one of them, and the one people are going to point to a lot to criticize the game is finding cats. And, you go in to hunt down monsters, but as far as the monsters go, there could be more around it to make it more interesting as far as the story, some of the story stuff going on. But I like finding those monsters because there's something different about them. A lot of cases, they're special monsters with different, and they're stronger. There's just some of the tougher fights that I've had up to this point, and you got to go in with a different strategy sometimes than normal. So that stuff is kind of cool. And then there are a couple missions where Darcy, they kind of expand the world a little bit. There's one in particular where what you have to do in the actual mission wasn't particularly great, but one thing at the end, there was something thrown out about one of the characters, like one of the main characters of the game, and you're like, oh, okay, just add a little backstory for that, which was nice. And you get some good equipment and some good goodies for doing the missions. And I'll say this for people who might want to skip them. Like Darcy said, they're kind of subjected to different chapters, and it's really obvious which, when it's side mission time.
Right.
When you do it all, you get a special cutscene with the characters you are with. Like, for example, one of them, you get a cutscene with Tifa you want to get otherwise, and another one, you get a cutscene with Aerith you want to get if you didn't do all the missions. Right. And they're nice little cutscenes.
Yeah, and these side missions are all from Cloud's perspective. Yes. Or you're playing as Cloud.
Yeah, you play as Cloud. Yeah,
you always have Cloud. You're following Cloud, whatever. I mean, you have other people, and you can obviously play as the other characters. We're going to get into combat for sure. But yeah, like you're always Cloud is like the character you're controlling, and the character that a lot of the stuff is revolving around. Not completely though, because like when you're with Tifa, like, and that was one of the cool things is you're going around Sector 7, and something that you definitely like. In the original game, you're running around and everyone you talk to is just talking to Cloud.
Right.
And that's pretty much it. In this game, you're walking around and like everyone knows Tifa because Tifa's lived here for 5 years and everything. So they're all like, hey, Tifa, like, who's your friend? What's this or whatever? And that is definitely a cool dynamic.
Is that your boyfriend? I'm going to beat him up.
Yeah, which I do like. There is a whole other pillar of this game that I legitimately, I'm not kidding, when I have to like applaud them. They really capture. They really like the people writing this like captured what we all love about Final Fantasy VII, how weird of a game it is, where it is like dystopian sci-fi, take down this evil corporation type like action game or whatever. But it is also a cheesy teen romance novel, and we all know this, and that's like whether you admit it or not, that's part of why you love Final Fantasy VII, and they totally get that. Like This is the relationships and the kind of like will they, won't they, and the like stuff between them or whatever. I think it's fantastic. It's done really, really well. It's cheesy, and I love it so much. This is about the thirstiest game I think I've ever played in my life.
Playing the wrong games, Darby. No one, you haven't seen Nekopara. And those kind of games, don't look at those kind of games. They're terrible.
I was going to ask, so Tetsuya Nomura, he was the director for the original Final Fantasy VII, and he's the director again.
I think it's Katase is the director.
Okay.
Nomura was involved, but
Nomura was never the director, but he was heavily involved in both.
Okay.
Katase
I think
was the director.
He was
both.
the character designer at least.
He was character designer in the original. I don't know what its official title is now, but Katase is the guy that directed both, I think. But
okay, well, with the time that has gone by since the original game and this remake and the different Square projects that a lot of these creators have been involved in, like other Final Fantasy games as well as Kingdom Hearts, do you see both thematic designs and gameplay designs from those other Final Fantasies incorporated into this new Final Fantasy VII Remake? And do you feel like that incorporation of these different styles, does that benefit this remake, or do you think that it takes away from what made the original Final Fantasy VII special? I
definitely see them. I don't think this game would have happened without Final Fantasy 15. Like I legitimately do. I mean, not that it like feels exactly like that, but I definitely think that Final Fantasy 15 kind of like paved the way for this. And I talked to Jeff about it. This is one thing. I mean, partially it's because this is the game I played where I didn't play like all of 15, but this game has a lot of Shadow of the Tomb Raider in it. Which, you know, it is Square Enix who like did both of these games, and I think at least, especially on the side quests and the like hub world design, I think it's pretty clear to me that a lot of the same people that worked on Shadow of the Tomb Raider also kind of all hands came over to here because like it's structured in a lot of the same way where it's like this is the hub world and this is where the side quests are, and even a lot of the character models and environments, like when you look really close on them, they look like they could have been stripped straight from Tomb Raider. And I think that like I don't think it takes away because I think that they did a very good job of taking the essence of Final Fantasy VII, even though this is a very, very different game. They were able to translate that into this type of pacing and everything of like main mission hub world and stuff like that. And I think they did a very good job of like seamlessly merging the two, where as a Final Fantasy VII fan, it's all new to me, but it's all also nostalgic and familiar at the same time. It like really like toes those lines between those two things for me. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was wondering, like, you know, I've seen a lot of people saying like, oh, this game plays a lot like, I don't know, Kingdom Hearts. Like, do you feel like that is?
Well, I think that's more a question directed at me.
Yeah, true, yeah.
Not really. I feel like when some of the comparisons to Kingdom Hearts and Final Fantasy 15, at least some of them, yeah, they're there in a way. I think a lot of it is because Nomura and Final Fantasy, there are people trying to inject that kind of stuff to it to a point. The combat's a lot different because, you know, some people are trying to say this is a straight up action combat system when it's not. It's a blending together of the, you know, action and the, you know, kind of more strategy mechanics from the old Final Fantasy stuff. Like, if you play this like a Kingdom Hearts game, you're going to have a bad time.
Do you think it does the blend of action and turn-based well?
Oh, yeah. I think Darby loving the system as well.
I legitimately, as of right now, think this is probably my favorite JRPG system in the game. Like, it's so unique. I've never really seen something that like so accurately blends because like dodge rolling and stuff is very needed. Like you have to do the action game type things of like, you know, I have to position. If I like dodge right, I can like dodge just attack and do all these things or whatever. But also equally as important is like stopping time and doing this move or doing a shortcut and, you know, like managing your MP, doing all of this. And like it's really hard to explain. And honestly, when you look at it and when you hear it, it sounds like that could be very clunky, right? Like it kind of sounds like there's too many cooks, too many things going on. But once you really get the hang of it, it's like one of the most satisfying systems I've ever seen. I think the backbone of that is that all four of these characters are very different and you have to play them in a different way. Like Tifa is a lot more of like, feels more like an action brawler because, you know, part of my problem with Final Fantasy 15 is like, yes, it was like a move around and swing sword game, like an action game, but it kind of wasn't because like you would press one button and he would just kind of auto attack, swing as you hold this button, and that's about it. Whereas this game has like Tifa, sometimes I'll go like punch, dodge, punch, you know, like I have this like fluidity in this like you know, I'm intending to like do this and then dodge and then do this and attack this instead of just like, you know, generic attack. But if they were all like that, I think the system would start to get stale. But then you have situations where like you really can't play this game and just be like, I'm just going to play Cloud. I'm just going to play Tifa. It doesn't work that way. There's combat situations where it's like, oh, you need to get long range, so you need to go to Aerith or Barrett, or you need magic, you need to do this, or one of your characters gets grappled, so you have to switch to the other one and like bail them out.
Yeah, you got to switch and mix up your strides. I've seen reading some impressions for the game and some people not liking the combat, but they're going into it like, I'm just playing Cloud and not really using magic, and this combat is clunky and slow and matches take forever. Why do people like this? Like, you're doing the combat wrong.
Yeah, that was one of my questions I was going to ask. You know, do you find yourself switching between characters pretty often in battle, or do you find yourself primarily playing as Cloud and switching to other characters as more of like a utility function?
It feels like it depends on the situation because at least based on your build, some enemies, any one of the people in your party might be suited better just based on their weaknesses and all that. So while you'll always, it's at least for like the tougher matches, if you're just fighting against some of the easiest of the scrubs, then you can pick any one of them, get through it really quick, whatever. But during the bosses, you might have a primary one that you're more of the match, but you got to be switching, decently frequently throughout the whole thing.
Yeah,
or at least telling them what to do.
I think, and I don't think this is a bad thing because you have to have Cloud all the time. Cloud is definitely the best all around. Like for most situations, Cloud can find some way out of it. So I think the answer is you can kind of play it either way. I think you definitely can, and I more or less have played like primarily Cloud and then switch, but that itself is very satisfying because you have things like you'll do Cloud and you'll attack someone until they're staggered, like there's this stagger meter, and as soon as that builds up, you switch to Tifa and she can just put out DPS like crazy once they're staggered. And then if there's an aerial enemy that like Cloud can't get to, you switch to Barrett and he can do all this, or Aerith, which I think Aerith is probably my favorite character at this point, like combat wise, which she has a learning curve. She has a learning curve, but like there's this thing that Aerith could do, like she puts down this one ability and it lets her cast when she had cast magic, she cast it twice as long as she's in that circle, and like I have her magic attack thing at like 200, so I'll just go like bam bam it's like an insane amount of damage. But she's a lot more like you have to set things up properly. And
so for the magic circle thing, because I know you can make it go towards someone else on your party.
Yeah, I haven't done that really because Aerith is my central magic person.
Yeah, sometimes I put it on Cloud because he's having the type of magic that was better against that particular enemy. But the circle lasts for a little while, at least at this time. Yeah. So I'm wondering if someone you don't like, if when you're selecting a character, it just that's just the spot it goes to, and you can get another one of your party members, and then they'll do the double attack.
I imagine. I mean, like, I don't think it would let you cast it on someone, or maybe it would, but I wouldn't think it would let you cast it on someone else if they couldn't use it. I haven't tried that, but
no. I mean, no. I know you can cast a Cloud, but let's say you do it on yourself as Aerith. Can Cloud go in that same circle and do the double?
I believe so. I believe you probably can, but I have not tested.
That's the thing I have not tested out
because I had like Cloud and Tifa are like my attack heavy characters, and Aerith is just like all on magic. And I also think the crafting / like even like the decisions you make about like how you're going to level up your characters, I think is really interesting because you can't really just have everyone be like, or you can have everyone have like, there's kind of a balanced route, an attack route, and a magic route, and then there's like other like subcategories in between there. Like they're not labeled out like that, but that's more or less how it goes.
Right.
But the kind of risk reward, like I had a decision like halfway through this game where it's like, okay, there's these items that like super buff Aerith's magic attack, but it decreases her defense by a lot. And I'm like, fuck it, we're doing it. I was like, she is going to be a glass cannon, but she is going to be a powerful glass cannon. And that was cool. That was a very cool decision and risk reward. And she does die easily, but if I can keep her alive, then like they're going to get wrecked. And that's cool.
Reminds me of some of the things that you can invoke in super giant games where you can like modify the make characters. There's always like a pro and a con to an ability,
right? And I think
balancing that cost.
That's when like I think JRPG systems can get pretty boring when everyone just kind of it goes up in the same level and there's no hard decisions between that. I usually do default for the balanced route, but Aerith, I was like, you know what, we're doing this. We're going for this. It's really cool.
One detail that I like from the demo was that a lot of actions such as casting magic and even using items is tied to a meter that you have to build up using standard attacks. I thought that was a really good detail to the combat system. How do you feel like that plays out in the long run beyond the demo?
I really like it because it makes the stressful situations kind of that much more stressful because you're used to like, oh, I have low health. Let me use this healing item. Instead, it's, oh, I have low health. I have no ATB. I gotta try to like punch in some attacks, but like play passive
or run around and try not to get hit because
which can also be really hard because a lot of characters have like ranged attacks that will send on you. But I really really like it because it makes you don't spam things. You have to think about it more. You have to think about like when I'm going to use this healing thing, when I'm going to do that. And
And sometimes, well, it was a situation in a recent boss fight I had where I have the cure materia on everyone. Just so anyone could heal using their MP and stuff. Nice for Tifa because she has no other, at least in my build for her, no other MP using moods besides that one. But it was at a point where I could hit the boss for major damage, but someone was close to death, so it was like, and I want ATB thing up. So it's like, do I just go for the damage or do I just heal here? What do I do?
Right.
And yeah, there's some strategy for that. I think it's very surprising in a way that they were able to take all these elements from the original Final Fantasy VII combat system and blend and insert them into this remake, and it works so well while still feeling like right, like homage or whatever to the original game. Because normally when you have those kind of weird quirky things from a turn-based RPG and try to do it to a more action-oriented game, whatever, it may not work that well, but the way they did it here works very surprisingly well.
And it's like a completely new battle system, but materia works in the exact same way. And it's like, how did that happen? Like I'm like building my I could probably go look at my Final Fantasy VII file, and I probably have my materia lined up the same exact way about. Like, it's crazy. It's a completely new battle system, but like they were able to like fit that in like the same way.
Yeah, and the materia kind of goes in with something we kind of mentioned, but anytime it's the whole like the weapons and all that kind of stuff. Each character only they all have their certain kind of unique weapons and stuff, but you don't get that many weapons. It's not like you go to whenever you go to a new area, the shopkeeper is going to have them. You actually don't buy any of the weapons. I don't think it might have been one that you actually bought. A lot of it you kind of get through story purposes. Or you find them in chests or something like that. But what's very interesting about every weapon that's very interesting is kind of like Darby was saying, some of them might be more attack or magic focused on that. Or they might be materia focused where they have more materia slots. And that's something you gotta kind of weigh your options. Like, do I want the more attack for less of materia slots or what I want to do? But what kind of help may make things easier is the weapon upgrade system. Because, like, for example, I have the original Buster Sword on Cloud at the moment. Yeah. Like, it's still viable. They have this upgrade system where you get points every time you level up and that you can use to kind of fill out this, not really grid, but whatever, this little area to get some additions to each individual weapon. And they don't share the points. So whenever you get a level up and you get, like, 5 SP, every weapon gains 5. So you can kind of upgrade them as you want. Or whatever. So there's one sword I had Cloud for a long time and had the Buster Sword to the side, but at some point the Buster Sword exceeded everything else. Like, time to bring it back, baby!
Yeah,
tried and true.
I heard that in a review that weapons will remain viable throughout the duration of the game. I think it's really cool for like in the case of the Buster Sword, where that's his Cloud's iconic weapon.
It felt so weird not having it on for so long.
Yeah, I think
it felt wrong.
I think it's good that weapon will still be useful in the late game because it's such an iconic part of the
character.
It's
cool. I mean, I use the Buster Sword for the vast majority of the game, but then like in the last 6 hours or so, I've got a new weapon. I've switched to like all attack, and it's like Cloud plays very differently now, and it's really cool. Like the weapon actually changes a lot of how your calculus about how you like go forward in it, and the way that the upgrades work are really cool because as you get like experience that you can put into the weapons. Each weapon has its own unique like experience things or whatever. So you can go to a weapon that you're not really using or that you get a new weapon and you can completely like put all your experience points in there and look at how it is like after you've done that and then decide if you want to use it or not. And you don't have to feel like, well, I don't want to waste these experience points if I'm not even going to be using the sword. You can kind of like max it out, do whatever you want, and then look and be like, okay, I don't want to use that.
Yeah, there's one feel good mark because they all have different things where I got a weapon. I think for Aerith was the most recent staff I got for her. I think Darby just got it before we recorded.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I look at the stats before I do the upgrades. I was like, things barely go down, and things are magic going up big time. Oh boy, I'm using this. Do all upgrades like, ooh, baby. Error funny.
Oh, it's so nice when you get one that's like already it super buffs magic and doesn't have that much of a downtime, and then you look at the upgrade tree and it's like magic attack up, magic attack up, magic attack up. It's like, oh shit, this is gonna be
Yeah, the downside was you weren't able to get some of the things that are down more up to make it more upside than that. But that staff is obviously like, no, you're going all out of magic.
Oh, and also we haven't talked about every weapon also has an ability that like as well as the stats, every weapon has a unique ability that lets your character do. And if you use the weapon long enough, you get that ability permanently.
Yeah, well, it's using the ability. Like, you got to use the ability a certain amount of times.
Right,
it's roughly 10 times, so if you want to spam that, it's very easy to get that.
So you can still get the ability off of a weapon and then switch to something else. And
there was one weapon for Cloud in particular I didn't really care for what I was doing for it. It's supposed to not be that, probably not the weapon you're supposed to use. But it's like, I want the ability, so I just went there and kind of grinded out the ability just while I was doing some of the missions. Like, yeah, I got it. Switch back to my Buster Sword, baby. No, that's a very nice thing. That's exciting about the weapon. Getting a new weapon. It's like, okay, let's see how the stats go up and see how the upgrade tree does. And let's see that new ability.
Yeah, boy.
So, how do you both feel about the mental load that this game asks of you in combat? Because you're balancing 3 characters in a party, and their ATB meter, their health, and other kind of factors. Do you find yourself? Is it pretty easy to keep track of all 3 party members in a battle, or do you find yourself at times lost, or like, oh, I completely was neglecting this character? Like, what is the mental load of this game like?
At least for me, like, it's definitely not easy, and that definitely happens, but it's always satisfying for me. Like, I love that stuff. I love those times where like that just kind of like adds to the like franticness of it. But because that like time stop mechanic, you really do. Even if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, you can do that and then think about it. And if it wasn't for that time stop, this would absolutely not work. But I think that adds a lot to it. I do think because of this combat system and how it has so much going on, I don't think it's going to be for everyone. Like I have, there's like a friend of me and Jeff's that played Final Fantasy or watched me play Final Fantasy VII growing up and really loved Final Fantasy VII, but he doesn't play games like at all, and he was interested in this. I'm slightly worried about like him because like I do think you like there is a lot going on. I could see someone if you're not at least pretty used to like managing stuff in an RPG. I could totally see people being like, I'm overwhelmed. This is too much.
Yeah, especially like we were saying earlier, you need to be able to do that to get through the boss. Like, it's not like Kingdom Hearts where the hard / the highest difficulty you get like when you open up the game. Kingdom Hearts is very easy. This game, I haven't died except for doing a side thing, but it's not like I'm breezing through this. The fights that you think would be stressful happen stressful. The boss fights have actually had think and all that, had plenty of close calls and all that, and even like I said, some of the side missions. So it's not a breeze.
Yeah, I mean that was one thing that I was curious about this game is because Final Fantasy VII is such a big game. A lot of people played it. It's such an influential title in just gaming culture. And a lot of people who have not played games in years will probably be interested in picking this up. Like, oh, I remember that game.
Mm-hmm.
And
then so the difficulty of the combat, at least, like, are you playing on normal? I assume.
And that's the highest one right now, right?
You don't get hard until you do it. Which hard seems to be a big difficulty spike because you can't even use items. Like in fights, you gotta just use. Apparently, from what I've heard, for hard mode, they expect you because you do it like a new game plus. You have your characters maxed out level wise. You have your materials maxed out, and you have a fine understanding of the combat system.
And then there's that recent Kotaku article, which is the title of it's kind of memeable, but it does make a good point of how the Final Fantasy VII's easy mode is way too easy.
But there should be some middle ground.
Yeah, I was wondering like how many people who have not played games in years who love the original Final Fantasy VII, how many are going to go into this and find normal way too hard, but are going to be bored on easy mode.
I think that's a very real possibility, and especially like, I mean, obviously I haven't tried it since then, but we tried out the classic mode in the demo, and I think that's a joke. I mean, it's a nothing mode. It's kind of the game plays itself mode, and it's just not. It does like I get what they were trying to go for, but it doesn't really capture that. Yeah, I definitely do. I mean, it kind of, in a way, reminds me of Red Dead Redemption 2 in the sense that like this is a massive game that a lot of people are going to be playing. But they did not really go for accessibility completely. They kind of went for like, this is the combat system that we really want, and this is going to make like JRPG people like love this. But yeah, I do think that was kind of a risky choice, and I think there are definitely going to be people who want to go through the story, but like you said, they kind of have no option. It's either baby easy or oh god, I can't do this. You know?
Yeah, it sounds like based on what people were saying, it feels like there should have been 2 more difficulties, one in between normal and hard, and one between normal and easy. Have like the hard maybe be very hard, and the easy be very easy, and just have something in between. I know it's not that easy,
but at least for me, and I think Jeff agrees, for me the difficulty is absolutely perfect, because like honestly I've only died like 5 or 6 times in this whole thing, but I've had a lot of like really exciting
moments. That's great though. I like that feeling.
It's the awesome like blend between I'm not dying constantly, so the pacing of the game is not being like messed up, which in this is not a game you want to die over and over and over in, because like this, I think the story is paced like legitimately perfectly. Like I like so good.
Chef kiss.
Yeah. And yeah, I think the combat goes like it's like you don't die super often, but you feel like you're going to, which is cool.
Yeah, it's a hard balance to strike.
Yeah, very hard.
So one of my questions was that, ignoring that this remake is just the Midgar section from the original, when this entire series is complete, do you think that this remake series is intended to replace the original, or do you think it's more of like a supplement to it, or like in conversation with the original?
I don't think it's, and as I've said from the start of this, like I still think the original Final Fantasy VII is like absolutely going to have its like merit to be played on its own. It has a vibe that this game does a very, very, very good job of capturing, but like there are certain elements of just the like Lego figure, like weird ass charm of that like 90s writing, all that other stuff that is just always going to be like great to look at in there. But I will say, and it's kind of crazy for me to say, I mean, in the middle of playing this, and this is my favorite game of all time, I think it's more towards the replacing Final Fantasy VII than I thought it would be. And I mean that in a good way. Okay. Like, I legitimately think, like, I thought even after this remake, I was going to be like, this is like, obviously from a modern gameplay perspective, this is the like one that a random person's gonna like the most. But I thought, like, you know, you're still gonna need to play both or whatever. This is the better version of the story, and this is probably the better version of the combat too. Like, I legitimately think I am in there playing my new favorite game of all time. I legitimately think that's happening.
That's a really good feeling.
No, I mean that's what I was saying earlier about the story. It's like, besides nostalgia, I can't see people arguing that the story in the old game, it was told better, just because of the standpoint of just all the context and all that, and just like Darby saying, the added emotional weight to, like, there's so much more emotional weight to all the story beats, major story beats that happen, because you get more time with those characters. Like Darby said with the Avalanche, you actually give a shit about those characters. There are a few moments that, like, God, I can't wait to talk about spoilers, and I can't wait for you to play. You to play this game. Yeah, because like I thought that I was going to be like, oh, they're two different things, you know, like they're both amazing, but like they're two different experiences. They kind of are, but also, like I said, there are a lot of changes in remakes, but like, Jeff, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I can't think of like a single one that I think is like not improving the Final Fantasy VII core story experience. Like, maybe towards the end here, it's going to veer off into some crazy bullshit and like change, because, you know, I'm not at the end, but at least so far, all of the additions have just made that core story better rather than different. Yeah. It's crazy. Like, it's really weird. It's weird to have, like, you know, this is my favorite game of all time, and for me to honestly be saying, like, this is just
It's just making it better rather than different. It is, whatever. But
well, that leads to another one of my questions, which is this Final Fantasy VII Remake. Do you think it is more concerned with presenting Final Fantasy VII in the way that people remember it? Because again, Final Fantasy VII is such a monumental game in the 90s and has influenced so many people in their 20s and 30s. Is it more presented in presenting how people may remember Final Fantasy VII versus what that game is like in actuality? Because you recently played through the Midgar section, and Jeff, you have familiarity.
Yeah, I was already played the final part. Well, I watched them play the part I'm not at yet. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, I have great familiarity with the Midgar sections, at the very least.
So you think this remake is more of like a record of Final Fantasy 1997's Final Fantasy, or more of like a memory of what Final Fantasy VII was? Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, it sounds like such a cop-out, but it's kind of both. I mean, because it really is, when I'm playing this, as someone who's so intimately familiar with the original, it's like I almost know every line that's said especially the Midgar section. But it has those things that when you walk up to the item shop people, they say a lot of the same lines or something very similar. You walk up to the material shop guy in Walmart, and he's laying on the thing in this seductive weird pose. I walk in there in this game, he's doing the same exact pose. I walk in, this person's doing the same thing. Oh shit! I kind of even though it's so new, I kind of know my way around these places, even though it feels completely foreign and crazy. It has all of that, but then it's also, there are a lot of things in here that is no, we're not going to be afraid to take what you knew before and just kind of we're gonna go in this direction now. So it legitimately, there are parts of it, me looking up at the Midgar plate above you and things where it's this is what you always imagined. You knew that it was this crazy big city, but you're actually being able to see these things, and it just adds a whole new level. But then, like I said, story-wise and even environment-wise, it's doing more than just preservation. It's preservation and reimagining and enhancing. It's both of them combined in one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some things that are just straight up better with the way they're presented, like the War Market stuff, like with the Honeybee Inn and the gym. It's so the way they did it is just so much better. It's so Honeybee just better from a presentation standpoint. And Jacob, you don't know, there's a gym in the Wall Market where you got to do some stuff which is very controversial and needed to be changed. And the way they did it so much better.
Oh, and that's that's a great example. The whole cross-dressing sequence and everything like that. I'm not going to go into specific spoilers and stuff, but that is a great example of that's something that in the original game, it does not hold up well. There are a lot of very problematic, there are lines that are said in the Wall Market that I'm just oof, this is someone if I was transgender or even gay or anything, I'd be all right, thanks game. Right. It's not great stuff. They were able, that's a great example of they when they were approaching this game, they're okay, we're doing this section. One option would have been to omit it, or to completely take out rip out these parts or whatever and just leave a base thing and be and that would have I wouldn't have complained. I would have been all right, that's it or whatever. But they did the harder thing where it's we are going to take this and turn it and turn the tone of this and change the message of this and everything, where me playing it, I'm still doing a lot of the same things, and it's giving me that nostalgia. But then Jeff said, it's legitimately I walk out of that and it's I technically did the same things, but I feel so much I don't feel I'm being ridiculed and put down because of this whole thing. I feel if anything, there are characters that are hell yeah, Cloud. It's
and this is for me up to the point where I play in the game. It went from a very problematic thing, which it was iconic part of first game, but very problematic, to one of, I think, what people are going to call one of the best parts of this remake.
I agree. Yeah, that is a wonderful example of they could have just removed, but instead they're we're gonna take what's there and turn. I walked out of that section grinning from ear to ear. It was just
Yeah. I mean, not to I know a little bit about the Wall Market section, the Honeybee Inn, just from my interest in Final Fantasy VII as a cultural icon, and I'm sure there were a lot of people in the 1990s who played that section, which again, problematic by today's standards, who probably felt like that part was offered them a lot of people who may have queer identities offer them a rare portrayal in fiction in video games that they
100%.
frequently were excluded from, and I think it's important that they have updated that to a more joyous
Right, and I have
celebration
seen
now.
people who are transgender and queer who said that, like, yeah, back then, like, I really loved that section, and they said, like, some of the more, like, problematic parts kind of went over my head, and so it's kind of a troubling thing to them where it's like, in some ways it was kind of a formative or just like a nice thing, even though it was not trying to be.
Yeah.
And that's a rough thing to wrestle with in your head. But that's, again, the people who are making this, and it's so cool because a lot of the people making this game are the same people who made the original, and you kind of see like they're like it really does. A lot of these parts feels like older people, like the people who made this game, looking at their past work with their modern eyes, and doing that. And like, I legitimately think, and I think Jeff agrees, like, I think that this whole section is something to be proud of now. It's something.
Yep.
I think it's
Yeah. This also brings me to a question about the characterization of Barrett. So I believe like Final Fantasy VII was originally intended to be set in actually America.
Was it?
I read that somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, that's why you see like the Texas
you do see
neon sign and whatever.
Chocobo Sam.
So obviously Barrett is a character of color. He is black, and which again I think is very rare for video games of the 90s, let alone Japanese video games, and even till today.
Yeah.
Like, you don't see a lot of black characters in video games, such as Barrett. Do you feel like his characterization, in the way of taking things from the 90s that may not have aged very well, do you feel like Barrett's characterization in this remake is kind of an update of how he was, or do you think it's problematic in a way? A lot of people have said it's kind of playing into a Mr. T kind of blaxploitation stereotype.
Obviously, I am a straight white dude. I will never
Right. It's just a hard
never
question
want
for you to
like,
answer.
I'm never gonna like take this and be like, this is how it is or whatever. And I'd love to hear Jeff's input on this too. From my perspective, I really do think that like one of the things that like Barrett is, honest to God, probably my favorite character in this entire remake. And I think part of what made like, because it's a tough line to walk, because we all kind of fell in love with Barrett.
Right.
Like, he is this like bombastic, like eco, like radical dude that's just like, screams a bunch and does all this, and he's lovable. You love him even though he definitely was born from a very, very stereotypical, very like kind of harmful, bad stereotype. But I think in this game, like, obviously he has the same like kind of crazy screaming energy. They didn't like change the character on its surface, but it kind of reminds me of the wall market thing where it's like, you leave this game, at least me, I'm like, I see Barrett as such a loving father, and
Right.
kind of like, you see so much of just like on the surface he just looks like angry and screaming and everything, but whenever you get those moments where you kind of like get through that armor, that like got a stoic armor of like Barrett, or not even stoic, just like angry armor of like Barrett's personality, you get like, oh, he is like the most caring guy here. You see his like relationship with everyone else where like he is almost like a father figure to this whole group in a way, and like especially his relationship with Marlene and just like everything else like that, they make him like, he is a very relatable character. He does, like, I think in this remake he is a lot less of this foreign, like, oh, this crazy dude,
Right.
which is kind of what he was looked at as, like, oh, let's all laugh at this stereotype. He's kind of like that, but then when you get further into him, it's like you just get so much more emotion out of him, and at least for me, I think that makes him a very like engaging character.
Yeah, they definitely do more to add layers to it. I think is the voice acting definitely helps in a lot of these cases. Yeah, the voice acting for Barrett is fantastic. It does show those layers in there. Of course, some people might point to, especially early in the game during the first blind mission, where he is kind of more loud and bombastic and stuff. Yeah. But at the time, that part of the game, he is the leader of an eco-terrorist group, and that's just all the point you know him as. There's no way he's not going to be kind of bombastic and out there, whether he be black or white, to be honest. Or unless they go with the silent glasses, push them up kind of terrorist, that kind of thing. Yeah. But since it's Final Fantasy VII, those things are more out there and
I think they explain, because on the surface, at least in the original game, you didn't really get enough time with him, so it was like, okay, you just did this because he's Mr. T, loud black man.
Yeah.
But in this game, you realize, no, that is just Barrett to his core. You get to the point where it's he's almost like a cult leader in a way where he believes this shit. He believes that everything he's doing is for the planet, we're doing this or whatever, and it's he is bombastic and passionate because he is passionate, not just
because he's angry.
Right. It's and some of the that's another one of these things in this game is just the quiet moments of just or you're going through and you hear the characters talking to each other. And with Barrett and especially Cloud, how you see the kind of subtle voice acting and subtle facial animations of you start to see Cloud and Barrett both they're trying to be these alpha, I hate you, whatever. And then you slowly see that crack, and you see Cloud smile for the first time. They're did you just smile? He's no. And things like that. And Barrett, you see him for instance, Barrett at one point he starts making fun of Cloud, and he starts referencing this children's show type thing or whatever, and Tifa's wait, isn't that one of Marlene's bedtime stories? He's yeah, it's her favorite one, dude. He's just a dad,
right?
He's just a dad running around that watches a bunch of kids shows because he has a daughter, so that's the only thing he knows. He says that and expects everyone else to know. He's just so lovable. I love Barrett.
Yeah, I think is just one of those benefits of this remake in the way they're doing things, and this applies to Aerith and Tifa in a way too, where they're kind of those stereotypes where Tifa's kind of tomboy, is the shy one who obviously likes Cloud on and stuff, and Aerith likes Cloud but more out there. But with these moments and just the additional scenes and everything, you get more to their characters and they're more fleshed out, which again makes the story just that much stronger. And I will definitely get more of Barrett going more character modes with Barrett as we get through this remake series.
The only thing that I don't know if Jeff thought the same thing. The only thing that kind of was is kind of weird to me is there are part of it is just the over the top nature and just all this stuff. But there are,
I got the meaning brain, so I think I know where you're going.
There are way too many women that just every woman wants Cloud. Every woman is very, very thirsty for Cloud. Every hot woman is wants Cloud desperately.
It's cute and fun, but not really spoilers, because if you know the original game and played the demo. But yeah, Jesse, Aerith, and Tifa are
all want the D very badly, and it's that coupled with the fact that the sheer amount of times that there is a woman who is oh no, I'm gonna fall, oh Cloud saved me, yay, oh I'm gonna fall again, oh you saved me, oh this monster is gonna get me, oh Cloud saved me, it's that happened. That kind of is beat over the head where it's okay, Tifa, be a badass. Could Tifa be the one saving me one time or something? Why is it always the big strong man saving the the supposedly badass woman? That does get kind of old after a while, but you start to kind of see through the or it feels this is men writing the story,
right? Yeah. I guess this brings me to my final question, which is obviously the main characters of Final Fantasy VII. They belong to an eco-terrorist group called Avalanche, which is a group that is committed to radical change in Midgar, which is a dystopian society through
blowing up shit,
through bombings. Which eco-terrorism or left terrorism using bombs has a very long history, especially when this came out in 1997. That there was a long stint in the 70s where that was a very common tactic employed. Well, what I want to ask though is, do you feel this remake tries to soften the edges of Avalanche? Does it try to absolve them of all wrongdoing, or does it say, hey, ultimately, like their goal may be just and may be right because this is a dystopian society.
Right.
But do you feel like, does it try and show the cost of that kind of radical
100%? This
Yes.
is honestly, this honestly might be my number one praise for this game, or at least close to it. Is in the original game, it's like, yeah, it was a pre 9/11 world. There's a lot of other things like that, and there's a lot of things where it's just like you play that entire game, and there's not a bit of, hey, are we doing the right thing? It's like, fuck Shinra, fuck everything.
Yeah.
We're like doing this. It's like, I know what we're doing. We're going for it. And they're never really punished for that or whatever. In this game, right from the very early on in this game, you do that first bombing reactor. And chapter 2 of this game is kind of harrowing in the sense that you are walking through the destruction that you just caused. You are seeing people that it's like, I don't know where my mom is. Where is she? Oh God. It's like, I had a friend who was working there. Oh God, it definitely goes there. And even long into the game where we are now, you see people are scared and afraid and everything. And you see Shinra's propaganda, kind of getting to them. You see them Shinra is saying avalanches, all these other things or whatever, and you kind of you see people scared and angry and all these other things. And even within your party, I would say Barrett's the only one that's completely clear-headed about it. Everyone else at some point has been is this right? Are we doing the right thing? I don't know. And you see people kind of go back and forth on it, and it feels that way more real. And I have to imagine that continues later in the game when other things happen, because you definitely have, and you have characters kind of getting into screaming matches of this is wrong, we shouldn't be doing this, and we have to, because this is the only way to take down.
There's division amongst the party. Yeah. And how are their actions depicted in Midgar in society?
Well, what's kind of nice is just, again, something that's nice to be added, since they couldn't really do this in the 90s. On a lot of when you're in the towns or whatever, there are TV screens and just kind of alert things that from Shinra being like, hey, this is what happening, and they're talking about the damages that have been done and all that. And what Darby's saying about how the people reacting to the news going on, in one of the towns you're in, there's a big TV screen that's kind of in the middle of the town, city, whatever, and it's just people watching to it, and whenever you go by, you can hear the propaganda or the news or whatever playing. Just nice little world building, and just another way to add on to the actual damages that avalanches cause with their actions.
And there are so many conversations around town. There's so many people that talk and everything, and that's also one of the best world building things. Is in the original game, this thing happened and you heard from your core group of characters and a few other people. That was about it. Here it's something happens, and as you're fleeing, you are seeing the people who are being affected by this,
and then the characters that from the original game reacting to, and that changes the ways they react to what they did from the original game.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
Man, it's so good. And the only other thing that I'm kind of remiss to I have to mention music. I have to mention music.
That was another question.
Because there's a through line with all of my favorite games, almost my top 10 favorite games, so probably all of them have to do with music. And Final Fantasy VII is my favorite soundtrack of all time. So much of a reason why I love it is music. And it is very clear that is also the creators of this, one of their favorite parts of Final Fantasy VII, because the sheer amount of effort and stuff that's put into this soundtrack is kind of bonkers.
Yeah, so what happens, there are CDs you can collect throughout the world, whether buy from shops or jukeboxes, where they're all crazy out there remixes of the original soundtrack.
It's legitimately my favorite part of the game.
Yeah. And as someone only as into this as Dari pointed out, when you collect CDs, they have a number. It's the exact same track listing of the original soundtrack.
Because this is a soundtrack I've listened to so much even now today, and it is every time I hear there's a soundtrack, I'm I gotta go find where's that playing, where's that playing?
And just even without the CDs, just the music going on. For an example, it's kind of more of a recent part of the game I played to point out, Wall Market, it's the same kind of song playing for the thing, but when you go to different parts of the town, it will change the style of the song, and trying to remember. I think most of the time it's a seamless transition. Like you just go from visual line. It's just the song continues the exact same way, but it changes to the other style.
It'll change to like you're in this like seedy part, so now it's kind of this grungy part, and then you're in the main part, and it's like, hey, yeah.
And I mentioned the guy in Chocobo Sam. I went for his one more like a country
thing,
type thing.
And like all those like songs you collect, it's just so like. It's something that like it would probably be like, oh, okay, cool music for someone who hasn't played Final Fantasy VII, but someone like me who literally I know every single one of these songs. As soon as I hear it, it's like it's cool because I'm like, oh, what style is this going to be? Because like Barrett's theme is like this blues thing. Right. It's like it's this song that I know, but now it's in this blues style. Like Tifa's is in this like jazz thing, and it sounds like a legitimate like a jazz band they got together to play this. And then one is like a techno thing. It's like. They're just done in such a cool, playful way, in that way, and that like that's just that. Also, the music that accompanies everywhere you're going and like hearing. Like, I don't think there's a single song that is played in the original game up to the point that I'm at that they have not included in. They did not omit anything. Like everything has been remade.
Yeah, I was gonna say, obviously, like the original game had like this kind of MIDI soundtrack, and Final Fantasy VII is not like a fantasy game in the sense of like, you know, high fantasy. It's more like this industrial dystopian thing. And I know this game, this remake, has an orchestral soundtrack, and so do you feel that switching to more of an orchestral sound kind of loses maybe some of like the grungy and the grittiness of like the dystopian setting?
I don't, because I think that like the music in this game is definitely not a one note thing. Like there's a big range of sounds and instruments and everything. Like it's like a big amount of the budget must have gone to this music. There's no way. Like, and one of the things that I've always loved about Final Fantasy VII is Final Fantasy VII is such a weird ass like split thing between like seemingly polar opposite things. Like, yeah, like it's a dirty, grungy city, and like you have in that original game, you have like this industrial techno like grody sounding like beats and everything and all this stuff or whatever, but then you also have like freaking Disney-esque songs like Aerith's theme in the original is just piano and it's just beautiful, and both of them fit in this world, and that's part of why I like it's just something I love about this game, is that like, you know, it grungy and then beautiful, it goes together, and this game really nails that landing. Like I think even with it not being MIDI, even with it being more orchestral, when you hear like the Shinra music or like the oppressed people, like the one of the like the slums music, it sounds like, ooh, that's great. Right. It's like, ooh, it really, I don't know, like musically they have absolutely knocked it out of the freaking park. It's insanity.
Awesome. Sounds great.
I cannot get enough of this game. I'm excited for you to play it, because I definitely want to talk to you about it.
It will happen in the coming months.
I'm just floored. I had such high expectations, and somehow it like exceeded every one of them. And man, I have no clue what they're going to do with part 2, but I'm excited to see it. But that's a conversation for another day, because we are an hour and 6 minutes into this, and we do have another remake to talk about.
Yeah, we're playing games from the 20 years ago.
Everything old is new again.
So I played and finished Resident Evil 3. I wrote a review, which is on the Nerds at Large blog and also on my blog, we mentioned at the start of the podcast. I listened to what Jeff said last week, and I do agree with a lot of Jeff's points. I also really like this game. Even though my review might sound pretty negative, but I was trying to stress that I do actually like this game. I've seen
a lot of people say that. They're like, they say a bunch of negative, and they're like, but really, please, I like this game. Like,
so I mentioned it last week. I'm glad you're here to kind of talk about it, because as someone who hasn't played it, a lot of the issues some people have do spawn from playing the original, and some things that might have changed, and then like I had no context for that. So this is me just going off the game itself, which I think is a good opinion to have out there, but it's good to have both.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately I think Resident Evil 3 2020 is a good game. I just think it's kind of a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think two of my problems with it is that it kind of lies in this awkward, much like the original 1999 RE3, it lies in this original awkward in between slow paced, very methodical survival horror and more of an action set piece driven gameplay. and I don't think it. So I think with some of the mechanics that it has that are based off of the original or last year's RE2 remake, I don't think some of those mechanics really work to the benefit of a more action style gameplay. And with the original RE3, that was kind of a criticism thrown at it too, that it was shifting more towards action and a gameplay style that didn't really suit it. I kind of give that game a benefit of the doubt, or kind of a benefit of time, because when it came out in 1999, third person shooting was not really standardized. It was not really like no one really figured out how to do that yet. At least third person shooting. But I think this game, like there's a section like the hospital defense where I felt like it didn't really, the gameplay, the structure of like the survival horror gameplay in RE2 didn't really fit well with like those more action heavy sequences. But my bigger problem with it is that it's neither really a faithful remake nor is it really like a dramatically different reimagining. It still hits all the major plot points of RE3. With Resident Evil 2, like, yeah, there were things that were changed from the 1998 or 2019 RE2 compared to the 1998 Resident Evil 2. You know, things were definitely changed, but that game still had a similar structure and layout and pacing. So, like, if you went to the police station in Resident Evil 2 2019, you know, it's pretty much the same layout as the original police station in Resident Evil 2. You can be like, oh, hey, they moved this room around, this scare is moved to this different location, but it feels like you're inhabiting the same space. Right. That never happens in Resident Evil 3 2020. The zones, the hospital, the city, it doesn't bear any resemblance to the layout.
I heard some of that. I can see it. Like, I think I said this because I know there were some areas that were cut, and I think I predicted what one was. Was I right about the clock tower?
Yeah, the clock tower was cut, and then after the hospital, there is a like a park section, which I kind of like from the original game because it's like a very different scenery. You're in a nice park, and then in the original RE3, you kind of go to it's kind of like a research facility, but it's more like a factory, and it's not like the pristine sterile lab that you have in
the Nest.
Yeah, it's not like the Nest. So I mean, areas were cut out from the original, but I don't think anything necessarily interesting was added in to make up for that.
Place for it, yeah. I mean, did that feel like a time constraint issue, like this game was made too fast, or like do you think it was just more of a choice, more of a artistic choice for?
I think it may have been more of an artistic choice that they went with, and not that like the remake has to again follow the original structure like one to one, but I don't think it really reimagined. It
feels
things.
Weird to cut without adding or remixing or something, you know?
Yeah. And
like I didn't realize that it was that different, like just layout wise and pace wise and everything. Like because it's weird because everyone seems to have like you said, history repeating itself. It has like pretty much the same opinion of this versus RE2 remake as the original two games did.
But now it's added to RE3 that the differences between the original and this one.
Yeah, like with the original RE3, that game was. To me, that game is really cool to look at because you're kind of running through these very evocative ruined city streets. Yeah. And like, you know, the Raccoon City streets are comically narrow. They're pretty much functionally like the hallways of the police station or the Spencer Mansion. And so it would have been cool to see in a remake them taking that city layout and using kind of modern technology to kind of really flesh out this really urban feeling environment. And the city part, in my opinion, is the best part of both the original game and the remake. But in the remake, it just feels so constrained, both compared to the city streets in the original as well as the police station in RE2. So,
yeah, it's weird that the open city streets feel more constrained than a police station.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, it's a pretty massive police station.
Yeah, it was like an art museum that got converted into a police station.
So I mean,
damn key doors.
Is it one of those things that it feels like it should have committed more to one or the other of being a survival horror versus action game, or like did it commit to the action, it just didn't do it as well, or like.
Well, it's absolutely more of an action game than RE2. I don't think it,
like, would you have rather it leaned more into that if it was going to do that?
I would rather have it leaned more into like the arcadey action, kind of like how Resident Evil 4 is, where, I think a problem with this is that like you don't really have a good up close ability to defend yourself. In like Resident Evil 4, you can do like a spinning roundhouse kick, and if someone gets way too close, like I just need to get people off of me.
But I've also heard some people say like Nemesis stopped being fun to them because obviously the scripted nature of it, and the fact that like for most of the boss fights they kind of tell you like, hey, this is what you should use to beat this, and then if you use that, it's like, all right, it's pretty easy now.
Yeah, that too. There's never really any, I feel like, tension when you encounter a new monster. I mean, with the drain demons in the substation, there's a note that's pretty explicit, like, hey, use a green herb to cough up parasites.
Yeah.
With the hunter gammas in the sewer, it's pretty clear that, hey, use the flame grenades to take them out.
So I'm trying to remember for the flame grenade things. I can't remember. I know I found something that told you to use it. I think I found it much later than when I met them. I don't know if I can't remember if I just missed that part or it's something that came out later. For a reason, I did use the flame grenade. I was like, I got this. It seems powerful. Oh, it one-shot it. Sweet.
Or
Fuck you.
Yeah, or even during some of the boss fights, like there's a fight against Nemesis where he has a flamethrower, and Jill's like, I need to shoot the flamethrower. It's like, I kind of got that, but thanks for telling me.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think they just put up
because they know we're stupid.
I just think it's like honestly, I don't think they probably thought too much about it. I think they were trying to go for a more streamlined, like thrill adventure kind of feel to this, instead of more like a atmospheric, open-ended exploration focus, and it just didn't work for me the same way that it worked for me in Resident Evil 2. Another thing is that Nemesis in this game it's kind of ironic, because Nemesis in Resident Evil 3 1999, the original one, unlike Mr. X, Nemesis could actually chase you between areas, and he was kind of inhibiting your progress and kind of showing up at like really unfortunate moments. In the remake of Resident Evil 2 in last year, Mr. X kind of functioned way more closer to how Nemesis functioned in the original Resident Evil 3.
Yeah, where he'll just show up and like, oh shit, run!
Yeah.
I mean, that's something with Nemesis in this game. It becomes really clear that he'll just it is very scripted where he shows up. He'll just pop out of a wall, and it's obvious scripted because, like you said, at some point he'll show up with the flamethrower or shortly after with a grenade launch. It's like, okay, this is obviously supposed to happen. Even the first time you encounter him, where it's more Mr. X-like, where he is just chasing you around for a while, that's obviously, there's a start and end to when he's supposed to be following you. And it's not like the police station where you're in an extended minute of time where he can show up wherever. It's like, no, you got a pretty good idea of where you need to go and what you need to do with not too much exploration in between. You just got to run from Nemesis, which might make more sense for the way Nemesis in this game. I don't know how he is in the original RE3, so this is me just going off this, where it's harder to just run straight away from him as Mr. X, because he runs faster, he jumps ahead of you, he has those tentacles.
Yeah, that is closer to how Nemesis was in the original RE3, but in this remake, he's more like how Mr. X was in the original RE2, where he's just gonna show up in like this one hallway, and as soon as you get out of that hallway, you're kind of in the clear.
So you know where to run to escape him.
Yeah, so I think people's fears when that thing leaked about Nemesis could break into the safe rooms. That wouldn't have been that big of a deal, even that was, because there were only a couple times when that would have been applicable.
Yeah, and Nemesis also can't follow you through doors either. Well, most doors. I mean, there's
the diner or the donut shop was one where he would be able to follow you through a door. I went to that safe room and they said like, okay, I'm safe, but he's out there. Run out, grenade.
But there's a little side like toy store that you can go into, and he can't follow you in there. He'll just stare at you through the window.
Oh yeah.
And you're just like, hi.
He's allergic to toys.
Yeah. Like stars. Just waving at him. But again, I still really enjoyed this game. I think the way that Jill is portrayed is great.
Yeah.
I like her as a character. It's probably like her best presentation in like 10 years.
Yeah.
All
Definitely visually better, at least.
Yeah.
Like, costumes better.
Yeah, all the characters like Carlos has been expanded upon. Tyrell, who was on screen for maybe like 5 seconds in the original game. He's a much bigger character. Even Nikolai, who's like the kind of the villain guy. He's more like a fun kind of smug character.
Yeah,
I feel like
more over the top villain.
Yeah, whereas in the original he's just kind of like, I'm just an angry, evil Russian mercenary.
Yeah.
So I think all the characters are handled a lot better. I think the story is a little more concise and better paced than the original.
I think for me, just part of it, and maybe why I could be a little more positive on it, just generally, is because I did play RE2 right before it. So the different kind of gameplay, the more action, it's like a good companion piece to RE2 to, played all those straight. So the nice difference, and just as far as it being a companion piece, the kind of fill in the blank type things like, oh, this is how Marvin got attacked. Oh, this is what happened this is the reason that bathroom wall had a hole in it.
Yeah.
Stuff like that I liked.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this game quite a bit. I think if this game came out and it was like a $40, like a Uncharted Lost Legacy type of situation,
Right,
I think the popular discourse around this game would be a lot more positive.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to think about. When they announced Project Resistance going along with it, we were thinking, oh, they're doing it so Project Resistance can get eyes on it. Now it's more the conversation around like, oh, they did it because they didn't think Resident Evil 3 is worth $60 on its own.
And for most people don't care about Resistance. So most people, you're just charging $60 for RE3.
Yeah, it's like, but they can be like, we gave you 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other part of it is like, you enjoyed it a lot, but what do you think about the length of it? Like, 2 questions: the length of it, is it a bad thing, or is it fine? And do you think this is a $60 game? A game that would be worth someone listening to buy for $60.
Right. So survival horror is always a genre that has trended towards shorter completion times. That's just the nature of the genre.
So you can speed run and shit.
Yeah, I mean, these games are meant for replayability, and I beat Resident Evil 3 2020 in 7 hours. I beat the original one in like 8 hours. So I mean,
pretty close.
Pretty close. And then this game also has, I think, a good bit of replayability. When you beat the game, you unlock like a shop where you can spend points to buy items that can change around kind of your runtime. There's only one campaign, Jill's campaign, so I see where people are coming from with less replayability in the sense that there's only one character, but that is how the original game was.
Excuse me, put respect on Carlos's name. There are 2
Sorry, there are 2 playable characters, but one single campaign.
Yeah, until I get to see Carlos's story, see what his whole deal is, then
you do.
Do you see little baby Carlos?
No.
Yeah, Carlos prequel, but I also a piece of advice I would give. I played this game the first time through on hardcore. There's easy, normal, and hardcore. I've seen a lot of people complain that this game is way too easy. I would say that this game is probably a better experience playing it the first time on hardcore.
You're just not going hardcore.
Unless you're a scrub like me.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you want to play on normal, like that's fine. I'm not saying like,
I guess if you want to be a plebeian, Jeff.
Don't be a.
I suck at these kind of games.
But the real Resident Evil's on hardcore. But I mean, if you want to feel more of that tension, that kind of survival horror experience, and really kind of feel, Jill is in a very dire situation. She's being chased by this unstoppable monster, and I think having it on hardcore, Nemesis will kill you way more easier, and you have less resources available. It does make you feel the atmosphere and the tone of that game, I think, a little more.
Yep.
And you still have like the very classic Resident Evil power curve. I mean, by the end of the hardcore, I was like stocked up on like grenade rounds. So
nice.
You still it's not like you're going to be suffering the entire game, but it does make the first half of the game a little more tense.
Yeah.
A little more resource bare. And also, when you beat it on hardcore, you unlock Nightmare difficulty, which actually rearranges enemies and items. So that's a mode that I kind of wanted to see in Resident Evil 2, and so I think that is a good.
What about Inferno?
Yeah, apparently the final boss on Nightmare and Inferno is kind of bullshit. So, warning there. I haven't gotten there on my Nightmare run yet, but. It does offer this rearrange mode when you beat it on hardcore, so I think there is value there. I think it is worth $60.
Yeah.
Again, but value is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah.
So,
of course,
up to you. I mean, if you like Resident Evil, if you know what you're getting with this package, then I think it's worth $60. And I was happy with the runtime, even though areas were cut out. So,
yeah. It's weird, yeah. This is probably going to be a game that is like remembered too harshly.
Yeah,
because like
kind of like the original Resident Evil 3.
And I get it. It's probably damn near impossible not to compare it to RE2 when it literally came out just like a little over a year later, and very much in a similar, the same engine, similar style, all these things. Whatever, they were supposed to be a package deal. It's just like impossible not to compare them. And I think it's going to be a game that the general internet public, like 10 years from now, is like, oh yeah, RE2 remake was good, but RE3 remake was shit. And it's like, well, no, it's not. It's still good.
We're kind of already seeing that. I'm already seeing people kind of calling RE3 remake shit. I'm like,
it's not shit. There's a like knack is shit. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Get out! Next day you'll say KFC's not fine dining.
But
think of our brand.
Yeah, I mean, popular discourse around like the original Resident Evil 3 is that it's like the weakest of the PlayStation trilogy. But I looked at review scores for that game. It got an 8.8 from GameSpot and a 9 from IGN. It's like,
it was still a good game.
Like it reviewed very well. It's just not remembered as fondly.
Yeah, because I mean, the video game discourse can be pretty dumb sometimes. It's just if you're compared to a great game, it's just, well, that one's shit.
Yeah, it's kind of in that boat. I think it's a good game. I liked it. I'm playing it again. So
yeah, like I told Jeff, I mean, I still don't, not really convinced that I would love it, but it honestly sounds more up my alley. You might like it more than RE2.
So Jig, I'm gonna ask you right here. So I'm going to continue my Resident Evil journey. Should I go back and play RE Remake next, or should I go straight into RE4?
It depends.
Okay.
If you want action, if you want like a really, really good action game, go for Resident Evil 4.
Okay.
And that game holds up really well. If you want, in my opinion, I think my favorite Resident Evil game is Resident Evil Remake, which came out on the GameCube and has been up-resed and ported. That game is, I think that game is one of the best survival horror games.
Mm-hmm.
The atmosphere is really good. It's a gorgeous game even today, because when that game came out, it was announced alongside that Resident Evil would be changing over to Nintendo consoles, to the GameCube. Yeah. And they wanted to make this Resident Evil Remake to show off the power of the GameCube, but they made the 3D backgrounds too detailed that the GameCube could not handle it. So instead they went in and they took very high-res pictures and images and made pre-rendered backgrounds that allow the developers to devote the power of the GameCube to character models and lighting and special effects. So it's a game that really holds up very well today. Nice. If you play it, I would highly encourage you to switch over to the original controls, the tank controls.
Okay.
Because
we are a tank control house here, Jeff.
That game is built around tank controls. So if you have the modern kind of controls, you can just run circles around the zombies, and it takes out all tension, I think, from encountering a zombie.
Okay.
So that is what I would recommend.
Okay.
Well, Jeff, I say I'm making an executive decision to say, speaking of Resident Evil 4, we got some hot rumors. And we also got news time.
Jingle, jingle, jangle.
I just think it feels silly to go talk about a PlayStation controller and then talk about RE4 again.
Yeah.
Let's talk about RE4 now.
Keep that flow.
Okay, this comes from Andy Robinson from Video Game Chronicles. Following its reimaginings of Resident Evil 2 and 3, multiple development sources have told VGC that the Resident Evil 4 remake has now entered full production with an estimated release window in 2022. Development is being led by Osaka-based M2, the new studio founded by former Platinum Games head Tatsuya Minami, which has been preparing for the project since 2018. However, similar to how 2020's Resident Evil 3 was led by company Redworks, Capcom's internal teams and other external studios are likely to lend support. It's understood that the remake has the blessing of the original game director Shinji Mikami, who officially declined an approach to lead the project himself, but had provided informal advice on its direction. The studio helming the remake has been operated since 2018 and is comprised of many former Platinum and Capcom employees. M2 recently contributed to the development of 2020's Resident Evil thing. You gotta fix that. But its role on that game was always intended as a precursor to its main project. When I say gotta fix that, in the article they have 2019's Resident Evil 3. That is wrong!
What you think? Should this happen? Should it not? Is it complicated?
I feel like this needs to happen far less than RE2 and RE3.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, that's what I said before this. Like the biggest thing just looking for me is like RE2. Like I know we love tank controls in this house, but a lot of people don't. Yeah. So RE2 had a thing to fix. It had a thing that a lot of people, if they said play Resident Evil 2 today, they would not like it because of the controls and things like that.
And it's trapped on old hardware too.
That too. Yeah. So like that was something that like there are a lot of people who like absolutely love RE2 Remake that probably would not enjoy the original one.
Not at all.
That's not really the same case here. There's not really a thing to fix about RE4. Like from what everyone said, RE4 is a game that you could hand to anyone and like you're going to get the real experience.
Yeah, it's all modern consoles. I've only seen screenshots. I haven't played the game, but what I've seen, because I've been looking at it, so I'm like, I'm going to pick up a Switch at some point, probably relatively soon. It visually looks like it holds up pretty dang well.
Yeah.
So like that's not a thing, and I feel like with RE4, based on what I've heard from people, and I got a feeling Jacob will agree with me, this, especially after RE3, there's a lot more things to mess up about this game.
Absolutely.
Because it's significant. It's like over twice the length of RE2 and RE3.
Yeah.
Or at least one playthrough of RE2.
Yeah. It's like, I think that game's like 13, 15 hours.
Yeah.
And I mean, Resident Evil 4 is a lot of people's favorite Resident Evil. It's also a lot of people's favorite game ever. Mm-hmm. But again, it's available on PlayStation 4 and Xbox and Switch and PC. It holds up very well till today. It's very close to how modern over-the-shoulder shooting works. I think you could pick up Resident Evil 4 in 2020 and still enjoy it like people did back in the day. There are way more Resident Evil games that would benefit from a remake than Resident Evil 4.
Code Veronica?
The
true RE3.
So I mean, what do you think? What do you think about this being just like way more of a one-to-one thing than 2 and 3 have been? It's mostly just an up-res, even though I don't really think that's what would happen because it sounds like this is more like continuing the trend, series of this. But I mean, what would you think about that? It's still probably not necessary. I mean, it would be good, but
it's like I'm excited. I'm gonna play it, but like it's like a thing where if it comes out and it's like, it's good, but not as good as the original. I have like, well, you can just go play the original. Yeah. So it's kind of like a weird situation where it's like, I know no one's gonna go play Resident Evil 4 from Resident Evil 2 from 1998. So it's like
when did this game come out? So how far in history are we now with RE4?
2004.
Yeah. So that would really be. I mean, like it obviously old, but not like ancient. It's not like
what they could do, and here's some Resident Evil 4 trivia for you. So Resident Evil 4 was actually remade 4 times. So the original version, which was led by Hideki Kamiya, eventually became Devil May Cry.
I knew there was, and then there's some like Lost remake or something.
Yeah. So the second version is called like the Hookman demo, and it was more like psychological horror. And then the third version was kind of close to what we got. But I think if they worked in some of those elements from like the scrap versions, I think that would be very interesting and
to make it just
worth a remake.
It's like a companion piece.
Yeah. But unfortunately, if they did do that, you just have a bunch of people who love their original get pissed off because that'd be changing.
Yeah.
This is a weird one. I feel like I mean, technically, none of these remakes have to be done. There are ones that, do a lot better need remakes more than other games. But this is definitely one I don't feel like needs one. This screams a lot more than RE2 and RE3 as a cash grab.
Yeah. Which, if you're gonna remake Resident Evil 4, don't make it a cash grab. So,
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, it's also the conversation of and I think we brought this up when we talked about the RE8 rumors, which you can give us your quick takes on that if you want to as well. But I think we're definitely getting to the point that this is 2022. We're getting a little oversaturated with Resident Evil games.
Yeah, I feel like if you're not a fan of the series, that it can feel like a little much.
I think even if you are a fan, like he's saying that we're going to get RE8 next year, and then if we get RE4 the year after that, it might eventually just like the interest might start to decline more or whatever. I can see it.
Yeah.
If Resident Evil just becomes a yearly thing. I mean,
These games are also short, though.
And as long as they're different, like it sounds like RE8 is going to be like the first person type thing. So it's like I think that's like mixing it up different enough to
I mean, I'm not saying I would feel oversaturated from this because like Jacob said, they are short enough to where like as long as they're so high quality, I'm like, just go ahead, give them to me. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could also worry about the quality starting to dip if they just have.
The quality goes down. Then I'm like, stop it.
Don't do that. Things. Yeah, I was gonna say something about RE4, but I already forgot.
Yeah, and I think this is very unsurprising. But quick look at Twitter and the people I follow who like Jacob said, a lot of them consider RE4 one if not their favorite game of all time, or very worried about this just based on RE4 not really needing a remake like the other ones arguably did, and especially after the way the studio to them handled RE3.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it's interesting. It's just like we've just had so many opportunities to react to remake announcements.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny to see the line of like, when do we get excited and when are we like upset by it? It's like there's a fine line because I feel like we've seen lots of remake announcements and it's kind of like there is a rhyme or reason, but it's kind of like 50-50 whether it's like or really no.
Yeah. I think part of it is a lot of the big budget ones are Resident Evil ones.
A lot of them now.
Yeah.
So Jacob, just quick takes on the RE8 rumors.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited about it. I am a little bummed that it is in first person, but that's just strictly because I just enjoy third person more than first person. But it does sound very exciting. I'm curious as to how, if the protagonist from Resident Evil 7 is going to show back up. I'm interested to see what they do with him.
All the rumors are pointing to, at least that was the original plan he's going to be in. Whether he's like the sole playable character or something is yet to be seen. It seems it might be primarily him and Chris.
Yeah. Apparently they're fixing his face. Chris Redfield's face changes every game, and he looked nothing like he has looked even remotely in 7. So people are like, wait, that's Chris Redfield.
And we didn't even know who it was.
Yeah.
Who's this guy?
And we all know the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite version of Chris's face is the best. Like it is for every character in that game. Yeah. Dante's face is sublime.
I love plastic faces.
Yes.
So fix Chris.
Damn it.
Oh, for a reason it popped on my thing and I watched it last night. It's part of the reason I remembered this. I guess because I've been watching more Resident Evil stuff. The scene where Nemesis shows up in the story mode for Infinite did it, and I was like, let me watch this and see. I was like, nothing looks good.
Pretty bad art stuff.
Strangely enough, MODOK, a non-playable character, probably fits the art style more than everyone else. Probably looks the best. Okay, let's get to... I'm not going to read out this whole thing.
Let's clean up. Just a little cleanup news here.
Yep. We got the PS5 controller. We got it released.
Yeah, we got
the Dual Sense. People have takes. It's one of the most popular video game posts on the Twitterverse and the Instagrams.
I think it looks cool.
Yep.
I like it too.
We're all pro the Dual Sense here. I think it looks futuristic looking, and it makes me hope that the PS5 itself is white.
Yeah,
because I think the white, like that white Xbox One X is sexy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired. I'd be down to not just have a bunch of black boxes everywhere.
The only thing it gives them to continue that the way PlayStation is kind of rolling other stuff. It's kind of weird.
Just random.
It's like show us the damn box in the games already. Show us at least some games.
Nah,
At least Xbox has done that.
You get a little kid that came out of their cave and set a controller on the ground, like weaseled back into the cave.
That will satiate you for about a couple months.
I think the biggest news with this controller is that it does have a headphone jack.
Yes, I added there in the end. It does. It does have a headphone jack. That was the. Yeah.
And that stupid light is gone. The front light. It just drains your battery.
Hopefully the battery is much better because, dear Lord, the DualShock 4 battery is terrible.
It's so bad. Like with the sheer amount of Final Fantasy VII I've been playing, I like have both of the controllers on rotation, one charging while I'm playing, and I've had to switch off too many times.
And this does have adaptive triggers and all that kind of fun stuff, but unfortunately, that's one of those things that I got a feeling is just probably going to be used in a couple PlayStation first-party studios, and that's probably about it.
Yeah,
third parties probably won't use it that much, and the ones that do. Probably be able to kind
we
of
all
gimmicky.
know that every controller's gimmick is just like the touch bar is going to just end up being there and taking up space that's never actually used. Yeah.
If anything, it'll be there to you press to open up a menu.
Yeah, which I mean that's cool sometimes in the touch thing, but that could have just been a button. You know, it's nice. The actual use of it is.
And then Xbox decided to be like, "Oh yeah, we have a share button." Yeah.
Like people said, I think it's really cool they have a honk button from Untitled Goose Game.
Untitled Goose Game is the official game of the PS5.
It's the only game.
Yeah.
Not the PS5.
I wish the D-pad was like a solid cross instead of it being split apart, but that is purely just my feelings on the matter.
Yeah, I did. Like that was the only kind of red flag to me. It was like, don't know about that D-pad. I'm sure it probably feels better than it looks. But yeah, I guess they are just all like individual buttons instead of like you're rocking around them.
Yeah, I like the rock.
Yeah, we like the rock.
I like the rock on the D-pad. All right.
You don't know how it feels during fighting games.
That's the only thing that really matters. Can Sonic Fox destroy people with this thing?
That's how we know it's a good controller. Okay, let's talk about E3. It's dead.
Well, that's it.
Yep. A while back they canceled E3 and said they were gonna have a digital event. They canceled said digital event, and they said they are returning in 2021, but we'll see how long that lasts. So that's not surprising news in the least, since last week we talked about IGN announcing their thing,
which also hasn't been confirmed. That thing that they like approached IGN and other people about doing something, and IGN declined, or do we not know that for sure?
That I feel like I can't remember where that came from, but it seemed like it's one of those things that was likely to be true. Yeah, but obviously it didn't go through, and that would kind of make more sense with the timing of IGN's announcement. They knew that like that stuff was going on, and knowing that the E3 digital thing was not going to work out.
It's definitely not a good look that the ESA announces, hey, we're going to be doing a digital event, and then they're just not even able to pull it together. Yeah. It's like, it's pretty bad to...
Now one news site is pretty much doing what they were saying they were going to do.
And at least, IGN's going to take up at least some of that space now, and because if this goes super well for IGN, it's like, oh hey, we got a lot of the announcements there or whatever. Then if it works out well for IGN, which honestly, as a news site, they're going to be able to get every single exclusive reveal that would normally be E3 spread out upon all these different outlets. They are going to get all the traffic. So I promise you they'll do this again next year, whether there's an E3 or not. So who knows? I could definitely see a future where this thing just starts to take off in E3's absence. Who knows?
Shame.
It does kind of suck for all the other outlets that normally get to if there's any demo stuff for crazy stuff like that, IGN's going to be the only place to get all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's going to be very good for IGN for sure.
Bad for everyone else.
Depending on if this thing gets that many views anyway. I don't know.
Probably will as long as they get
probably a decent amount at least.
Yeah. As long as they have something of significance.
Yeah. Which they have significant publishers that they have announced. As long as they got
announced the Tales of Arise date, or at least have something else from the game.
Cowards.
Because Bamco's on that list.
And I think that's a podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Right? Yeah. Unless there was another news story that I missed.
I had a CD Projekt Red general thing.
I forgot. All right, what was that?
Okay, so they had some kind of weird talk-up thing where they're talking about stuff, news call, whatever. So some general beats. Cyberpunk is still planned for September. they're still holding down like, yeah, it's going through the final touches, some final touches, still planned for September. Who knows how that's going to go?
Which, I mean, they had said that early on in this thing. They said that, like, we were already prepared to work from home, and that most of the stuff they were doing was, like, polishing stuff anyway. So, like, from a production side, that doesn't surprise me. It was just always the question, like, are they going to do the same thing Sony did with The Last of Us? Because The Last of Us was also going to be done, but they're pulling out because of shipping and physical media and stuff. But that doesn't mean that every company has to do that. CD Projekt Red could say, well, we're just going to try to ship them, and if they get there, they get there.
Well, especially since a good chunk of Cyberpunk's would be PC sales.
Yeah.
Which
and
Last of Us doesn't
also,
have.
we might still get the same announcement for Cyberpunk. We're a lot further out to Cyberpunk.
Oh,
than
yeah, I
Last
agree,
of
but,
Us, so,
you know,
there's
there's-
September.
I
Like,
guess part of
CD
the-
Projekt Red would be kind of foolish to make that announcement now.
Oh, no.
Or it's
I
until
agree.
September.
But they seem to be kind of more adamant than
Yeah.
some publishers about it. They seem to bring up any chance they can get. So
Yeah. So I would feel good with it.
I wouldn't say that bring it up on its own, but you know, it's packaged with all this stuff. Also for Cyberpunk, not really surprising. There will be DLC expansions for it. It will be the size of the Witcher ones,
Hell yeah.
and they will be announced before launch.
Basically get a whole other Cyberpunk
So
game.
as far as you know, a lot of times we kind of go with kind of whenever people announce DLC.
When you just look at the sheer size of Blood and Wine, it's like
I mean, yeah, the Witcher expansions are kind of their own games, in their own right. So them announcing them ahead of time and going in more details, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, CD Projekt Red, I mean, it's kind of a double standard, but it's kind of not, because CD Projekt Red has worked to earn this reputation where I believe them with this type of shit. Because, like, I promise you, Blood and Wine was worth so much more than I paid for it. Like, I got a discount.
Oh, I mean, again, I'm making my way through it, but once I paid $20 for Witcher in both expansions.
That's absurd. That's ridiculous. That's like,
I mean, whenever I get through all that, that's far more than
it's like 300 hours worth of content if you stretch it, if you like do everything.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And also, just because we like sales time, we got some Witcher sales. We got exact numbers, guys.
They good
numbers. So we have the total amount of Witcher sales. 28.3 million. That is a lot.
Which is crazy. I mean, you think about, like, this was, like, obviously there were Witcher games before, and they were popular in Poland, and the books were popular in Poland, but, like, The Witcher was a very niche series.
Yeah.
Like, most people, myself included, had never heard of The Witcher, had no clue about it. Like, that's not very often that you have a not established name sell 28 million units. Like, that's pretty wild. That's like Red Dead numbers and other things.
And we can go deeper. We have it by platform.
Oh.
We got 12.4 million for PC, sold the most. 10.8 million on PS4. 4.3 million on Xbox One. And 0.7 million on Switch, which is pretty good considering it's a 5-year-old port.
Yeah.
So it probably will be over 1 million when all is said and done for it. Also, I'm not going to go by numbers. It's just kind of interesting thing. They also have a breakdown of how much it's percentage of sales on each platform for each year and how much it's sold each year from 2015 through 2019. Again, I'm not going to go through all of it, but it did sell about 10 million in 2015. So it started out very strong.
Yeah, very, very strong.
But it sold pretty consistently since then. In 2016, 2017, 2018, sold roughly like 4 million a year. Still very good. But it had its second best year besides its launch year last year in 2019, which with all the sales and the Netflix series probably definitely helped. It's probably very backloaded.
It's pretty wild for a single player RPG to have one of its best years the 4th year in, you know?
Yeah, and it sold, based on this chart, probably about 6.5 million.
Yeah. And
last year.
It also got its like peak concurrence on Steam and stuff like that last year.
So the thirst for a new Witcher game is going to be high. That's going to be highly anticipated. I mean, that's no surprise, but it seems to be more. The further we get away from its original launch, it is crazy how it seems more popular of a game Witcher 3 actually is.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Well, can't wait for Cyberpunk, but before that, I can't wait to finish Final Fantasy VII Remake. Thank you.
And then play it 5 more times before Cyberpunk.
Oh, your boy is playing this again. It's too meaty. I got it.
Play on hard mode, you
Think
coward.
I'll try hard mode. What?
You're gonna get the platinum trophy?
I honestly might.
Have you looked at that trophy list? Well, I'm gonna go with no because spoilers. But
Yeah, no, I'm not. I know I have 37% right now,
okay,
but
I know how much I have.
I haven't looked around.
I hope there's no like bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care a ton about trophies. So yeah, I mean, if it's too stupid, then like no.
If we get through with like most of the game, I can see Darby like a couple little things like okay.
I very well might. And I probably
the one that would make me probably not want to do it, it's probably a trophy, is max out all materia.
Yeah. They're crazy motherfuckers that did that in
those
the
are
original. It's like,
Those are never good trophies.
No.
Max out.
At least-
So I promise you that's a trophy.
At least it definitely would be easier in this game. Like things level up faster and everything. In the original game, if you want to max out materia, it's like, all right, you better get grinding, boy. You better get out there and find a bunch of random things.
Well, and also for you, if you're doing New Game Plus, it would carry over, so you can just...
Yeah, that's probably how you do it. It's probably pretty much impossible to level out all your materia the first run. Because there's just you can't like go back and grind enemies. I mean, I'm sure there are places you can, but that's not fun. We ain't doing that. But yeah, look forward to on the Nerds at Large Spoilercast podcast feed and on youtube.com/Nerds at Large our Final Fantasy VII Spoilercast whenever me, Jeff, Holden, and Chad are all done. Holden and Chad from Respawn and Fire are going to join us. And whenever we all finish the game, whenever that may be, probably like sometime within the next 2 weeks, we will have that spoiler cast, and I am so looking forward to that. If you get the game and beat it by then, Jacob will be on there, but
Unlikely, but
hey, no.
it could happen.
Whenever he does get it, we are talking to him about it, though. We will definitely talk about it.
We'll have a smaller spoiler cast.
We can have as many of these as you want. Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, all the way up.
And we're just talking about the spoiler cast.
Yeah.
We'll have 5 parts per part of Final Fantasy VII.
There you go.
Yeah, we're an hour per chapter.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Bye.